So there's a reason I am so excited about today's episode of the Buena Vista Homes Real Estate Show. And that's because we are coming to you from the Vista Valley Enclave of Buena Vista Homes. I've been constantly talking to you about how serene and beautiful the houses at Buena Vista Homes are. Just observe the peace and quiet in this area. But that's not all. What if I told you the houses you see here are 20 years and even more? It all boils down to what goes into crafting these beautiful homes you see here at the Vista Valley Enclave of Buena Vista Homes, which is very close to the much talked about celebrity golf course. There's a lot more to expect in this episode. You don't want to miss anything. My name is Efia Fosua. The show is proudly sponsored by Buena Vista Homes, where homes are not built but beautifully crafted. You're streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube. Please do also subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'll introduce my guests after this break. But before then, come with me. Let me give you a quick tour. Wouldn't you love that? Come with me. That plays a critical role in how beautiful, strong, or otherwise your buildings can become at the end of the day. I'm sure you want to be on the good side, and so today we are privileged, and I have with me, as always, two of the finest brains. I love to qualify them with the finest brains because indeed, from their works and everything we have seen them do in Ghana's real estate industry, you know, their works speak for them. Today I have with me Kwabena Nyako. He's an accomplished architect, and Samuel Ewu. He is also a chartered accountant and a quantity surveyor. Today they get to talk to us about the material component in real estate and how you can factor that so far as the real estate and building is concern. Right, gentlemen, you're welcome to the Buena Vista Homes Real Estate Show.
Thank you.
Right, our viewers are always excited to see your handsome faces and they're learning a lot as well. Delve into our topic for the day: material choices in real estate. The beautiful buildings here are 20 years plus. We'll delve into that. We'll get to understand why that's the case. It looks as though they were built just yesterday.
Yeah, that's all right.
Right. And so let's begin with the cost component when it comes to material choices in real estate. I'll start with you, Sam.
Yeah, so I think that we need to look at the structure of the cost structure in any building project. Usually, materials will form up to say 60% of the components in there, You would have a labor component, which is also about 20% on the average. And then we have what we call the overheads and the profits, which take care of the additional 20% to square it up to 100%. So materials will always be a very huge factor when it comes to construction, which is why the choices of materials will be very important and will have a huge impact on the longevity of the building, on the stability of the homes or the structures and stuff like that. And materials need to be looked at very critically, very carefully. And a lot of consideration must go into the choices that inform what one picks or otherwise in a particular project.
Right. Kwabena, is there any relation between the designs you put up and then the material choices at the end of the day? Do you take all of those into consideration, even at the design stage?
Yes. I think your physical expression of the building is also an aggregate of the various materials that you choose and that you use. And sometimes even the material choices dictate the design. Certain materials may not do very well in certain areas, right, but they are the kind of expression you want in the design, you know. So you look at, you know, things like that and decide even where to place those materials in the design. So design and choice of materials go hand in hand, you know. It's hand in glove, as they say.
Okay.
You know.
So if at the design stage consideration was given to the selection of a particular certain materials, and then the contractor goes ahead to make some changes, that could affect the final outcome of the building at the end of the day?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And my advice is always that consult the architects or the designers if you want to change materials for any reason. Right. You know, it's always best to go back to your architects and seek professional advice.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, Sammy, let me come back to you. How significant is a material component in the cost of a building?
Yeah, okay, so like I said earlier, it constitutes about 60%.
Okay.
You know, hovers generally about 60% of the entire building cost.
Right.
And so that is very huge, and it's the reason you will want to pay specific and particular attention to especially the specifications around the materials that the designers have preferred that are used in the particular project.
Right.
You know, so it's a very huge component of the entire building process.
Okay. So then my next question would be, how then do I ensure the right materials are being used? Okay.
So the first way to ensure the right materials are being used is to use the right professionals. Right. Because the professionals will detail out for you right at design stage what materials they want. The architect would always have in mind a certain concept. Okay. He will always have in mind at the end of the project how the visuals should look like. So it's an interplay of strength of materials and the aesthetic appeal of the material. In some choices, he's making that because of a certain strength he wants to see in the project or by use of the material, and also the appeal, you know. So the choice of materials will span, right from the foundation, okay, all the way till finishes and completion. At every stage, every level, there are choices that will have to be made, and those choices are very critical.
Right. Let's delve a lot deeper into the specifications. What goes on at that point?
All right. So once the architect has come up with the design, the structural engineers have done their bit, all the other professionals have made their inputs. The critical other bit is to have a specifications list or book or document. That document takes the entire design and tears it down to the basics. What should be in the foundation? In the foundation, you would have concrete, but what kind of concrete mixes? What type or what textures or what strengths should be the components of the the elements that go into, say, the concrete works. So everything is very important, and the specifications actually details out to the very minutest point as to what things should be done, sizing, weights, strengths. Every material comes with different properties. Right. So even with, if you say blocks, its crushing strength, its size, its mix, its curing period, all of that has to be detailed out and clearly spelled out to the contractor. Right. And the contractor in building is not only to follow what is on drawing, but more especially also what is in the specifications, because that is critical. If you, and then again, I mean, the specifications equally inform the cost, all right? Because if for a particular wall, the architect is specified that it should be 6 inches solid, that has a different cost from if he had said 6 inches hollow, or a different cost from if he had said 5 inches solid. So dimensions, sizing, weight, specifications, and all of that inform so much, when it comes to construction.
We are streaming live on Facebook and on our YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel. Get in touch with Buena Vista Homes at www.mybuenahomes.com. Also, give us a call on 0303 401 401 or 050 130 4728. And we would
are different materials of the same species, maybe. If you take, say, sand, usually people say, I need 2 trips of sand. And our lay mind measures sand in trips. But there are different buckets of the truck that is bringing the sand. So sometimes what happens is the guy comes to quote to you a trip of sand. He actually means maybe an 18 cubic. But because you are not aware, he brings you a 12 cubic. When he tips it down, as a lay mind, you will never see what he's brought you. You take iron rods. When you talk half-inch iron rods, which is something that most people relate to, within the half-inch bracket of iron rods, there are about 3 different sizes. You can have 11, 11 and a half, 12, 12 and a half, So most of the artisans we send to go and buy as these things, you send your steel bender. I'm not saying all of them, but majority of them find their way around these things. You want half-inch iron rods, it just goes to get you 11 and a half instead of 12. Okay. He pockets the difference. Take wood. A carpenter will charge you for wawa boards. Wawa boards is a higher species. It costs more. And indeed, if you check on the market for wawa board, what he has charged you is correct. But what he would deliver at your site for the work is not wawa board. All right, and you will never know, because for you, any wood that looks, is it creamish or something?
Light.
Light cream or something is wawa board. But within that space, there are different wood materials. And then you take odum, which is the most preferred for roofing materials. But within that, you have dahoma, you have all kinds of things. So it's always not the very best to want to do these things yourselves. In fact, those who attempt to take, as it were, the entire thing into their own hands, end up eventually losing out, rather than if they had engaged some professionals, people who actually know the market, can tell the difference. There was an instance where we had asked somebody to go get us iron rods, and half-inch iron rods, 1 ton. I know how many pieces should be in there, but apparently where he buys from, they always take 10 off the number, and hardly do you go to site to say, I'm going to count the number of rods in a ton.
That's a lot.
So you don't do that kind of check. You don't do that kind of work. But there are all kinds of tricks, when it comes to material purchases. And that is why it's always important. Always have somebody who has a certain depth of knowledge in these things to guide you, or to point you the right way, or to the right place where you know for sure that they will give you the correct specification and sizing.
I agree. Even for cement, you often would hear of different grades.
Yes.
For different purposes.
You're right. I think you're a builder now. All right.
I am. I'm learning from you. Am I not blessed? I'm privileged. I'm tapping.
There are different grades of cement meant for different types of works. That's true.
Yes, right,
That's
right.
true.
Right, Kobina, what are some experiences you can share with regard to people going to purchase their own building materials for their construction works? Do you have experiences to share in that regard?
I have a very recent one last week where I sent somebody to go and buy some tiles. Actually, I wasn't there physically, so I couldn't go and inspect myself. So he sent me pictures, and I selected something I thought looked nice. So he went and purchased probably about 20 boxes of these tiles and had it delivered, And once he opened it and started using it, then we found out that there were different shades of color in one box.
In the same
box? The same box had different shades of, so the sizes were all the same, nicely packaged from the factory, maybe from Spain. I'm not even sure where these tiles came from. Okay. So what do? You've paid for it, goods sold are not returnable, you've lost your money
in Ghana.
You've lost some money, So that, again, answers your question. Here's a personal experience of, you have to be extra vigilant,
I agree, extra vigilant. extra vigilance
and
is,
get a
is
professional
the key.
involved.
And get
Yeah, I
a
was
professional.
but unfortunately, I wasn't there physically, so I couldn't.
Right. Right. So let's now move on to standardization in building. What does standardization even mean in building?
Well, in every building, there are probably over 1,000 components that go into the construction of the house, or
Right.
so as much as possible, you want to, from a design perspective, you want to be able to standardize things as much as possible. First of all, it makes the process easier, the construction process easier. You don't have too many variations of the same thing you have to do or take care of. And it cuts down costs once you standardize. It also speeds up the construction process once you standardize.
Right.
And it can range from door heights to door widths to window sizes to, it could be anything, a number of things.
Right, so I did promise there was a lot to pick from this episode, and indeed you can clearly tell we are learning a lot. But let's go for a break at this point. When we return, we'll bring you more. The show is proudly sponsored by Buena Vista Homes, where homes are not built but crafted. Reach out to us at www.mybuenahomes.com or give us a call on 0303 401 401. So easy, 0303 401 401. I'm sure your 3 months old baby can't even say this. Anyways, let's go for a break and we are back shortly. Factor in all of those at the design stage?
Yeah, we do. I mean, the process of design, you're looking at various elements, essentially how the building is going to perform. One of the functions of, say, a window is to allow both light and ventilation. So depending on the use of the space, you may want to size your window appropriately, so that you can have maximum benefit from lighting, good lighting and ventilation. So yes, we take all that into consideration. Even in orientation of the building, we want to make sure that, say, your bedrooms, most of your living spaces have good natural ventilation as much as possible. Doing that will help you cut down the cost of using your AC because your rooms are always hot and you need to turn on the ACs and so on. So it's a process that involves quite a bit, You need to think through all these things very carefully Again, it reflects in things like sizes of doors and windows and, positioning, orientation, things like that.
In wrapping up, what would be your final words in relation to material choices in construction? Then I'll go to Sami for his final thoughts as well.
I would like to recommend you always get a professional to advise in the selection of materials for your projects. They know how these materials perform. They are able to read and understand the performance data associated with every material. Every material has gone through several periods of research and so on by the manufacturer. So the manufacturer usually, in putting out the material for sale, has a performance data sheet. So they understand the performance of the material, what temperature it best performs at, even with regards to storage, how you should store the material so that the performance doesn't degrade even before you use it and so on, So always get your professional, professional involved in the process, and you'll get the best advice, from the professionals you work with.
Best advice from the professionals. And I would like to pick your thoughts. He mentioned something regarding storage of materials and what it means for their strength and performance over time. Maybe you could wrap up with that for us.
Yes, I mean, materials will always retain its performance depending on how you store them. So you have to be careful how you store it. Depending on where you store your cement, over time it could cake and so on and so forth. So storage is important. But I mean, to conclude, let me equally say that, always use a professional when it comes to choices of materials and the selection. And if you have to rely on your direct artisan or contractor, trust, but always check. Because trust, but always check. Because chances are that something may not be right when it comes to purchases.
Right. So Sami sums it up beautifully for us. Trust, but always check. But then when it comes to choosing the professionals, I have been saying this in all of our episodes. Please talk to Buena Vista Homes. Earlier, they did indicate that they are open for consultancy services for those who would want to invest in the real estate sector. Give us a call. The number again is 0303 401 401, or you can give us a call on 050 130 4728. Reach out to us on our website www.mybuenahomes.com. Just send us an email as well, and we will definitely get in touch with you. My name is Sefia Fusua. The show is proudly sponsored by Buena Vista Homes, where homes are not built but crafted. We are back same time next week with another power-packed edition. There will be a repeat of the show on Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. You can always watch us on all our social media platforms as well. We are back next week. See you.